In this problem, Allie solves 304 minus 9 by crossing out the 3 and making it a 2 and turning the 4 into a 14. So that gave her 205. What she didn't do is take the 0 into account. It seemed as though she thought because nothing was in this spot right here that she didn't have to change the 0 at all. What Allie should have done when she subtracted 9 from 304 is first, because she can't subtract 9 from 4, she needs to add a whole place value to make the 4 into a 14. And that makes this 0 become a 1 because you have to add a place value for the bottom as well. So 14 minus 9 would be 5, but then you can't subtract 1 from 0. So she would have to do it again. She'd have to add a place value from 0 to make it a 10, and this 0 down here would become a 1. So then the 10 minus 1 is 9, and the 3 minus 1 is 2, giving her the real answer of 295. The correct method makes more sense because you have to realize that the space next to the 9 isn't just blank, but filled with zeros. This makes it easier because then you can think about how when you cross off from one area, you're not really borrowing, but adding the same place value to each. So when you trade the 4 to a 14, you're adding a whole place value from the 1's place to the 10's place. And you do the same thing on the bottom with the 0. You're changing it from a 0 to a 1. You're giving it a place value that wasn't necessarily there before because it was just the number 9. And then you're doing the same thing when you go from the 0 to the 10. And then the bottom 0 to a 1. It's all the same. You just have to keep going over and over, remembering that whatever you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom, diagonally. So say you had 304 minus 19 instead of just 9. You would do the same thing as before, crossing off the 4 to make it a 14, giving you a 5, and crossing off the 1 to make it a 2 instead of 0 to 1. You just add 1 on the bottom. And then you can't subtract 2 from 0. So you have to cross off the 0 to make it a 10, giving you 8. And this was crossed off to make that a 1 when you changed this to a 10. And then you have 285.